In this video, we're going to be learning how to classify matter. And as you remember from the last video, matter is anything that has mass and occupies space. Now, we can classify it in multiple ways. We can classify it as mixtures or pure substances. In order to do that, you have to ask yourself, can it be physically separated? And what that means is to be separated into more than one substance without having a chemical reaction performed. So if it can be separated into more than one component, then we have a mixture. And mixtures can either be homogeneous, or like a solution, or they can be heterogeneous. So a homogeneous mixture is one that is uniform in composition, meaning the components are spread out evenly. Whether you took a sample from the top or the bottom, they'd be identical. A heterogeneous mixture, however, isn't quite mixed the same way. The particles are dispersed, not necessarily in an even fashion, and we can further go to classify these as either being colloids or suspensions, where colloids consist of medium-sized particles that won't settle out over time. Something like milk. Milk, actually, not everything in it's dissolved. You have large protein molecules kind of just floating around within it, and they scatter the light. Substances that are truly dissolved don't scatter light. That's something known as the Tyndall effect. Suspensions will scatter light in much the same way because the particles aren't truly dissolved. They're suspended, and eventually they'll settle out over time. If you have to perform a chemical process in order to separate it, you would have a pure substance. And the two types of pure substances would be elements and compounds. Elements consist of only one type of atom, while compounds consist of more than one type of atom that's chemically bound. So a commonly asked question would be, well, what's the difference between a homogeneous mixture and a compound? The difference is, even though they're both uniform in composition, the compounds are chemically bound to each other, whereas the mixtures are dispersed. So, examples of elements you could find on the periodic table. Examples of compounds might be like sodium chloride and salt. We have sodium and chloride ions. Or you could, water itself is a compound. You have hydrogen and oxygen, but they're chemically bound. An example of a homogeneous mixture or solution would be like Kool-Aid. You can see through it. The sugars and dyes are all dispersed evenly. Some examples of heterogeneous mixtures. Again, we said a colloid would be milk, something that scatters light. And a suspension would be like Italian salad dressing, where at first when you shake it up, it's all mixed up, but eventually it will settle out over time. So these are the classes of matter, and I think we're good.